All right. Hey, this is RJ Whyte. We have Roger and we have Zach, and I am so grateful for you guys to join us. Thank you so much. First, I'd love to ask, how are you both doing? First, we'll go to you, Zach. Are you, how's your mental state? How's everything? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think, just rolling with the punches, hanging in there, kind of trying to follow all of the ever evolving directions we are receiving, and focus on ways to pivot to make sure that, my life and our clients' lives are moving forward as normal as possible. So just essentially adapting. I think it's very
Cool.
key right now.
Awesome, awesome. And how about you? How about you, Roger?
Yeah, I think what Zach said when he said rolling with the punches, we've been using that phrase a lot. Um, and I think it's the best way to say it, which is, we're kind of day by day, making it work and trying to keep our heads up throughout this whole process, which I think is probably the most important thing. Let's find the good things in every day, right?
Gotcha. Of course, of course. What about how have you seen your events for the future? Do you feel that everyone is pretty much canceling them, postponing them?
So right now, out of the events that we have going until May 18th, I'm just looking at the calendar right in front of me. Up until May 18th of our events, we currently have 3 that are still moving forward. Those are ones that are in May. We have 6 that have been postponed either to the summer or to the fall. We have 1 that was canceled, and we have 5 that are tentatively virtual. So we did a virtual event this past weekend. That one of those 5 is a gala that we actually did this past weekend, which we turned into a virtual gala, which was really exciting. And then we have a couple more coming up that we're working with the clients right now to see, can we turn it virtual? How do we do that? What does that look like? And go from there.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what happened? Was this something that you decided, like, in the moment, and how did that come into fruition?
I'll kick it off, and then Zach, you can pick up wherever I miss out.
Sounds good.
But so last week, excuse me. So today is Monday, the 16th of March. The gala was scheduled for the 14th of March, and on the 11th of March, which was Wednesday, we were moving ahead full steam. We were seating guests. It was going to be a 600-person gala at the National Building Museum, and we were moving ahead completely full steam. And that was the day that the mayor basically put out her statement on events should really be postponed. And that's really what made the client pull us in. We spent all day in meetings with the client on what does this look like, what are our options. With nonprofits, as you may know, they have fiscal years, and the fiscal year for them ended August 31st. So for them, postponing into the fall wasn't an option, because that would have put a gala not in this fiscal year, but in next fiscal year. And if they kept their following year one in the spring, that would have been 2 galas in the same fiscal year, which doesn't work. So basically, they had a deadline of August 31st to have anything, if they were going to have anything at all. So the options were completely cancel, don't do anything. The options were, because of their donors and their groups, they really couldn't do it in the summer. So the second option was, what if we just don't do anything at all, and we just have our auction online, and we just invite people to go online and make bids and gifts and whatever. And we really pushed them and said, we really want to find a way to engage your donors and engage your audience. So let's look at the option of going completely virtual, which is basically taking everything that would have been on stage at the event and moving it into a space with pretty much no audience. No guests would attend. All the guests would watch from home on their computers. And, we used, for this gala, we had already planned to use a partner we work with, C2, in terms of the auction and silent auction, live auction kind of need. So we pulled them in. We already had software lined up with One Cause, which will allow guests to bid from their mobile devices. So people could sit at home. They could watch this on their computer or on their iPad, and then they could use their mobile device to bid on silent auction and make a gift. And then the last thing that we had to figure out how to make work was the live auction. We knew that live auction for this client was something very important, and it was always something that was successful for them. So we basically went with kind of like a telethon model, where we had staff from the client's organization sitting there on their phones, and they were calling up donors that they knew were interested in certain items and saying, we're bidding, we're doing it live right now. It was very much like when you see those videos of the Monet painting at Christie's that sold, and you have the phone bidders calling in. It was very much like that, and it allowed basically the client to raise close to the money they would have raised in person, but with keeping all of their guests and staff and team as safe as possible.
Wow. That's really inspiring. This just goes to show, like, in the middle of a pandemic, how truly innovative and like responsive you guys are to just adapting and figuring things out. I mean, I'm really impressed. And how did it turn out? Like, was there a lot of response?
Yeah, there was actually great response. And Zach and I have been using the word pivot a lot, because I feel like that's really what this was. This was a Wednesday night for a Saturday event, and we had to completely pivot and rebuild the event from scratch. And the event was a huge success. They had a very steady viewership that watched basically the entire live stream. We're looking at somewhere in the range of, on average, somewhere between 300 to 400 households that were watching at one point in time. When you think about it, the event itself would have been 600 people. So with households watching at that same time, we're probably looking at more actual viewers of the gala than what would have been in the room, which is kind of exciting as well. And then in terms of their fundraising, they didn't make as much as they had planned to make in person, which we all knew was going to be the case. But I think that from our perspective, they definitely exceeded our expectations for what would have been done virtually. And I think that their viewership was really engaged because of the virtualness of it, because they felt connected to what they were seeing on screen, and they felt connected to the message as if they were in person. And they bid on all items, and they made gifts, and I think between that and the expense savings that were done by really scaling this down to basically a studio, the donor, we're still fleshing out the numbers, but we actually think that the client may actually net the same amount of money that they would have if they were doing an in-person gala.
Wow, that's remarkable. That's really remarkable. Now, was there any kind of performance elements to this show that stayed on?
Absolutely. Zach, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, definitely. So, this was another variable that we were forced to overcome. Washington Performing Arts, as a performing arts nonprofit, those performances are a huge portion and variable of the evening. It's entertaining for the guests. It's inspiring for the guests. It, in conjunction with some messaging videos, are very integral to the show. So, essentially removing them was not an option. So what we did is, we worked with the agents for the artists themselves, and essentially anyone involved in the process of getting them here, and made sure that we had some variation of entertainment throughout the entire evening. And that did not come easily, because we did have several artists who had to back out. Some, who were, exhibiting signs of some sort of illness. And, were coming in from all parts of the country. So we definitely wanted to keep that a part of the evening, because we, think it helps lighten the mood, keeps it, true to the mission. So that was, one of the cooler things that we got to do on Saturday, was ensure that all those artists were able to perform, to the masses via the virtual feed. But that was not without its hiccups as well, especially in the planning process, because we had to replace some artists. We had to Zoom some in from LA who weren't able to make it. We had to plan for a ton of contingency plans should something happen at the last minute. So yes, we were able to keep I think we had 4 artists perform throughout the evening.
Yeah.
8 to 10 minute performances, which thanks to our incredible vendors, went off without a hitch. But it was important to us to keep that element, and we were able to make it happen. So
we also were very aware of how do we keep our artists safe as well. So we definitely tried to practice a lot. There was Purell everywhere. We had, before you entered the room, you had to Purell. Before when you left the room, you Purelled. And our artists all, one of the things that we did is when we actually left the Building Museum as the venue, we were honoring Sheila Johnson, who's the owner of Salamander Resorts. She has a resort out in Middleburg. So one of the things we actually did is we moved the location of the live stream out to one of her small ballrooms in her resort in Middleburg, Virginia. We also looked at this as an extra way, just because of population density. That area of town, of the area is a little bit safer because it isn't as busy as the cities are, and it isn't as densely populated as the cities are. So there's a lot less human interaction when you're going out there. So that was another way that we tried to keep our participants safe.
Wow, cool. That's like, so what do you think now that you have all of, kind of the uncertainty in the future? Have you, using the word pivot, found ways to continue to operate during this time, or have you kind of said, okay, this is a pause? Like, what's your action for now?
So for now, I think we're doing two things. I think it's twofold. I think right now in the immediate, we're really showing clients that a virtual event can work, and it can work, and it can be safe. It can be a very small group of people. It can be very limited interaction. Social distancing can be maintained during a live event. So we definitely have the flexibility to do something like that if you want to, again, pivot your live event to something like that. I also think that right now we're just doing a lot of focusing on after we get out of this. So planning for the fall. We have a number of events that have postponed for the fall. So we're still in the planning mode. And I think that's all we can really do at this point is just stay in that planning mode and continue to try to keep things moving. We are, as you can tell, we're all working from home. So our office has closed for at least the next 2 weeks. Even though we're a small office, and even though there aren't very many of us there, we really do know the value of what all the experts are saying in terms of social distancing. So we're trying to respect that as well.
Yeah, and I think also so many clients rely on us to see them through trying times, outside of status quo. So we need to keep that front of mind, that's important for us to stay that course for them now more than ever, and in doing that, forward thinking ways to ensure that their bottom line is affected as minimally as possible, and also that everyone's taking care of themselves, trying to do this the best way we can, whether or not that's going for a walk, hanging out via Zoom with your friends so you don't go entirely stir crazy, catching up on some things that I haven't done in a while, like reading for pleasure and things like that, making sure that we're getting through this together, but also staying that role that we have always been for our clients.
And as a follow-up to that, I think for our vendor partners as well, I think that's one thing that Zach and I have, and Kirsten on our team have all been really doing is checking in on folks and making sure, letting people know that we're here if they want to chat, and we are doing whatever we can for our vendor partners and for our clients. As Zach mentioned, a lot of times the event planner, the event producer, is the one that when something goes wrong, we're the one that has the clear head and the calm demeanor that says, something's going wrong. How are we going to deal with it? What are we going to do? And here are our options. Let's play them out. So we're definitely trying to be that for, as Zach mentioned, for our clients, but also for vendor partners as well, and kind of talk through what we have and know that we're all here and we're all really in this together. I mean, that's something that we've had a lot of conversations internally at RJ Whyte about in the past week, is that this isn't, we're no longer, for right now, we're no longer competitors, and we're no longer vendors and clients and things like that. We're all just a family through this, and we're just going to have to be a family through this, and that's what's going to get us through, is by staying in communication with folks and letting people know that you're here for them no matter what it may be. We actually, as Zach knows well, so I about 2 weeks ago, got together the heads of a bunch of companies that would be considered competitors. So RJ Whyte pulled in Philip Dufour with Dufour, Jeanette Traveris with Evoke, Rebecca Linder with Linder and Associates, or Linder Global, I guess it is now. Nancy Schaefer with Bravo, Andre Wells. We pulled everyone together. Yeah. Show Call. We pulled everyone together and said, normally we would be battling for clients and bidding on the same RFPs and doing all that stuff. Let's put that aside and let's talk about how we can come together as a family. And we're talking pretty much every day now of what can we do to help? What can we do to help our communities? What can we do in terms of putting out statements to let people know that we are united at this time and not kind of all siloed in our individual worlds. So.
Nice. Awesome. And that also speaks mounds by just sitting here telling your stories as well. I know you have lots of things to try to figure out and to work on, but I really appreciate all of the time that you've taken just to speak with me on your situation. And I really love that, especially this is a really powerful message to come together. So thank you for emphasizing that. Together we move mountains, not individually, right?
Exactly.